And with that, we bring down the music once again as we start another Sunday night edition of Accessibly Live, the book club reading room. Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good week, good weekend. Depending on when you're getting a chance to watch the show, welcome. Bonjour, konnichiwa, hola, salut. Welcome to the final episodes or chapters of the classic Oscar Wilde book, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Tonight, chapters 17 and 18 of the story. It's been a long haul, long chapters, and a frighteningly good story. We've seen Dorian sink into madness and to a lot of depravity for what he's been doing to others and doing to himself. And tonight, we're getting towards the end of the book. Chapter 17 and 18 tonight. Last week, Dorian just missed having his clock cleaned by a certain young lady's brother. Hope you guys are enjoying it. By the way, if you get a chance, don't forget, we do have a new email. JoelK_OG@protonmail.com. That's JoelK_OG@protonmail.com. I'm liking these guys. They aren't selling my information, which is kind of nice. We have got so much stuff to go through the next couple weeks, this week and next week. Next week, we will let you know what's going to be happening for the last couple weeks of August and the first week of September, right before the big announcement next week of another movie here on the channel. That will be on Labor Day for those in the United States, and it'll be similar time, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time here in the U.S. That way, those who are watching, and I know you guys are watching, I've had a few people say hello from the UK, from the East Coast, other places around the world, and we'll welcome you all in and enjoy the movie and enjoy the books that we do here as well. We should get started. One of those problems that you and I have talked about is that when Oscar Wilde was told to fix the original 13-chapter book, well, he did, and he made it 20 chapters, which is fine, but he made the chapters really long. And 20 chapters with the chapter averaging 45 minutes each. Yeah, it was an incredible book to get through. It's kind of like redoing Captain's Courageous here on the channel. But without further ado, let's get into Chapter 17 of the Oscar Wilde classic, The Picture of Dorian Gray, here on Accessibly Live, the book club reading room. Chapter 17. A week later, Dorian Gray was sitting in the conservatory at Selby Royal, talking to the pretty Duchess of Monmouth with her husband. A jade-looking man of 60 was amongst his guests. It was a tea time, and the mellow light of the large lace-covered lamps that stood on the table lit up the delicate china in hammered silver on the service which the Duchess was presiding. Her white hands were moving daintily among the cups, and her full red lips were smiling at something that Dorian had whispered to her. Lord Henry was lying back in a silk-draped wicker chair, looking at them. On a peach-colored divan sat Lady Narborough, pretending to listen to the Duke's description of the latest Brazilian beetle that he had added to his collection. 3 young men, in elaborate smoking suits, were handed tea cakes to some of the young ladies. The house party consisted of 12 people, and there were more expected to arrive the next day. "What are you two talking about?" said Lord Henry, strolling over to the table, putting his cup down. I hope Dorian hasn't told you about my plan for rechristening everything, Gladys. It is a delightful idea. But I don't want to be rechristened, Harry, rejoined the Duchess, looking up at him with wonderful eyes. I am quite satisfied with my own name, and I'm sure Mr. Gray should be satisfied with his. My dear Gladys, I would not alter name for the world. They are both perfect. I was thinking chiefly of flowers. Yesterday I cut an orchid for my buttonhole. It was a marvelous spotted thing, and effective as 7 deadly sins. In a thoughtless moment, I asked one of the gardeners what it was called. He told me it was a fine specimen of Robinsoniana, or something dreadful like that. It was a sad truth, but we have lost the faculty of giving lovely names to things. Names are everything. I never quarrel with actions. My one quarrel is with words. That is the reason I hate vulgar realism in literature. The man who could call a spade should be compelled to use one. It is the one thing he is fit for. Then what shall we call you, Harry? She asked. His name is Prince Paradox, said Dorian. I recognize him in a flash, exclaimed the Duchess. I won't hear of it, laughed Lord Henry, sinking into the chair. From a label there is no escape. I refute the title. Royalties may not abdicate, fell a warning from pretty lips. You wish to defend my throne, then? Yes. I give the truths of tomorrow. I prefer the mistakes of today, she answered. You disarm me, Gladys, he cried, catching the willfulness of her mood. Of your shield, Harry, not of your spear. I never tilt against beauty, he said with a wave of his hand. That is your error, Harry. Believe me, you value beauty far too much. How can you say that? I admit that I think it is better to be beautiful than to be good. But on the other hand, no one is more ready than I to acknowledge that it is better to be good than to be ugly. Ugliness is one of the 7 deadly sins, then, cried the Duchess. What becomes of your simile to the orchid? Ugliness is one of the 7 deadly virtues, Gladys. You, as a good Tory, must not underrate them. Beer, the Bible, and the 7 deadly virtues have made our England what she is. Don't you like our country, then? She asked. I live in it. Then you may censure it better. Would you have me take the verdict of Europe on, then? He inquired. What do they say of us? The Tartuffe have immigrated to England and opened a shop. Is that yours, Harry? I give it to you. I could not use it. It is too true. You need not be afraid. Our countrymen never recognize a description. They are practical. They are more cunning than practical. When they make up their ledger, they balance stupidity by wealth and vice by hypocrisy. Still, we have done great things. Great things have been thrust upon us, Gladys. We must carry that burden. Only as far as the stock exchange. She shook her head. I believe in the race, she cried. It represents the survival of the pushing. It has development. Decay fascinates me more. What of art? She asked. It is a malady. Love, an illusion. Religion, a fashionable substitute for belief. You are a skeptic. Never. Skepticism is the beginning of faith. What are you? To divine is to limit. Give me a clue. Threads snap. You would lose your way in the labyrinth. You bewilder me. Let us talk of someone else. Hang on, guys, I gotta double check something. One of those days. Our host is delightful topic. Years ago, he was christened Prince Charming. Ah, don't remind me of that, cried Dorian Gray. Our host is rather horrid this evening, answered the Duchess, coloring. I believe he thinks that Monmouth married me on purely scientific principles as the best specimen he could find of a modern butterfly. Well, I hope that he won't stick pins in you, Duchess, laughed Dorian. Oh, my maid does that already, Mr. Gray, when she sees she is annoyed with me. And what does she get annoyed with you about, Duchess? Well, for trivial things, Mr. Gray, I assure you. Usually because I come in at 10 minutes to 9 and tell her that I must be dressed by 8:30. How unreasonable of her. You should give her warning. I daren't, Mr. Gray. Why, she invents hats for me. You remember the one I wore at Lady Hilston's garden party? You don't. But it is nice of you to pretend that you do. Well, she made it out of nothing. All good hats are made out of nothing. Like all good reputations, Gladys, interrupted Lord Henry. Every effect that one produces gives one an enemy. To be popular, one must be a mediocrity. Not with women, said the Duchess, shaking her head, and women rule the world. I assure you we can't bear mediocrities. We women, as some say, love with our ears, just as you men love with your eyes, if you ever love at all. It seems to me that we never do anything else, murmured Dorian. Then you never really love, Mr. Gray, answered the Duchess with a mock sadness. My dear Gladys, cried Lord Henry, how can you say that? Romance lives by repetition, and repetition converts an appetite into an art. Besides, each time that one loves is the only time that one has ever loved. Difference of object does not alter singleness of passion. It merely intensifies it. We can have it in life, but one great experience at best, and the secret of life is to reproduce that experience as often as possible. Even when one has been wounded by it, Harry, asked the Duchess after a pause. Especially when one has been wounded by it, answered Lord Henry. The Duchess turned and looked at Dorian Gray with a curious expression in her eyes. What do you say to that, Mr. Gray? She inquired. Dorian hesitated for a moment. Then he threw back his head and laughed. I always agree with Harry, Duchess. Even when he is wrong? Harry is never wrong, Duchess. And does his philosophy make you happy? I have never searched for happiness. Who wants happiness? I have searched for pleasure. And found it, Mr. Gray? Often. Too often. The Duchess sighed. I'm searching for peace, she said, and if I don't go and dress, I shall have none this evening. Let me get you some orchids, Duchess, cried Dorian, starting to his feet and walking down the conservatory. You are flirting disgracefully with him, said Lord Henry to his cousin. You had better take care. He is very fascinating. If he were not, there would be no battle. Greek meets Greek, then. I'm on the side of the Trojans. They fought for a woman. They were defeated. They were worse things than capture, she answered. You gallop with a loose rein. Pace gives life, was the response. I shall write it in my diary tonight. What? That a burnt child loves the fire. I am not even singed. My wings are untouched. You use them for everything except flight. Courage has passed from men to women. It is a new experience for us. You have a rival. Who? He laughed. Lady Narborough, he whispered. She perfectly adores him. You fill me with apprehension. The appeal to antiquity is fatal to us who are romanticists. Romanticists? You have all the methods of science. Men have educated us, but not explained you. Describe us as a sex, was her challenge. Sphinxes without secrets. She looked at him, smiling. How long Mr. Gray is, she answered. Let us go and help him. I have not yet told him the color of my frock. Ah, you must suit their frock to his flowers, Gladys. That would be premature surrender. Romantic art begins with a climax. I must keep an opportunity for retreat. In the Parthenon manner. They found safety in the desert. I could not do that. Women are not already allowed a choice, he answered, but hardly had he finished the sentence before, from the far end of the conservatory came a stifled groan, followed by the dull sound of heavy fall. Everybody started up. The Duchess stood up and motionless in horror. And with fear in his eyes, Lord Henry rushed through the flap of the palms to find Dorian Gray lying face down on the tile floor like in a death-like swoon. He was carried at once into the blue drawing-room and laid upon one of the sofas. After a short time he came to himself and looked around with a dazed expression. What has happened? He asked. Oh, I remember. Am I safe here, Harry? He began to tremble. My dear Dorian, answered Lord Henry, you merely fainted. That is all. You must have overtired yourself. You had better not come down to dinner. I will take your place. No, I will come down, he said, struggling to his feet. I would rather come down. I must not be alone. He went to his room and dressed. There was a wild recklessness and gaiety in his manner as he sat at the table, but now and then a thrill of terror ran through him when he remembered that, pressed against the window of the conservatory like a white handkerchief, he had seen the face of James Van watching him. Chapter 18. The next day he did not leave the house, and indeed spent most of the time in his own room, sick with a wild terror of dying, and yet indifferent to life itself. The consciousness being haunted, snared, tracked down, had begun to dominate him. If the tapestry did but tremble in the wind, he shook. The dead leaves that were blown against the leaded panes seemed to him like his own wasted resolutions and wild regrets. When he closed his eyes, he saw again the sailor's face peering through the mist-stained glass, and horror seemed once more to lay upon his hand upon his heart. But perhaps it had only been his fancy that had called vengeance out of the night and set the hideous shapes of punishment before him. Actual life was chaos, but there was something terribly logical in the imagination. It was the imagination that set remorse to dog the feet of sin. It was the imagination that set the crime bare to misshapen brood. In the common world of fact, the wicked were not punished, nor the good rewarded. Success was given to the strong, failure thrust upon the weak. That was all. Besides, had any stranger been prowling around the house, he would have seen by the servants or the keepers. Had any footmarks been found on the flower beds, the gardeners would have reported it. Yes, has been merely fancy. Sybil Vane's brother had not come back to kill him. He had sailed away in his ship to founder in some winter sea. From him, at any rate, he was safe. Why, the man did not know who he was, could not know who he was. The mask of youth had saved him. And yet, if it had been merely an illusion, how terrible it was to think that conscience could raise such fearful phantoms and give them visible form and make them move before one. What sort of life would be his if, day and night, shadows of his crime were to peer at him from all silent corners, to mock him from secret places, to whisper in his ears as he sat at the feast, to wake him with icy fingers as he lay asleep. As his thoughts crept through his brain, he grew pale with terror, and the air seemed to him to have become suddenly colder. Oh, in what a wild hour of madness he had killed his friend! How ghastly the mere memory of the scene! He saw it all again. Each hideous detail came back to him with added horror. Out of the black cave of time, terrible and swathed in scarlet, rose the image of his sin. When Lord Henry came in at 6 o'clock, he found him crying as one's heart will break. It was not until the third day he ventured to go out. There was something in the clear, pine-scented air of that winter morning that seemed to bring him back to his joyousness and his ardor for life. But it was not merely the physical conditions of the environment that caused the exchange. His own nature had revolted against the excess of anguish that had sought to maim and mar the perfection of its calm. With subtle and finely wrought temperaments that were always so, the strong passions must either bruise or bend. They either slay the man or themselves die. Shallow sorrows and shallow loves live on. The loves and sorrows that are great are destroyed by their own platitudes. Besides, he had convinced himself that he had been the victim of a terror-stricken imagination, and looked back now on the fears with something of pity and not a little of contempt. After breakfast he walked with the Duchess for an hour in the garden, and then drove across the park to join the shooting party. The crisp frost lay like salt upon the grass. The sky was an inverted cup of blue metal. A thin film of ice bordered the flat, reed-grown lake. At the corner of the pine wood, he caught sight of Sir Geoffrey Closton, the Duchess's brother, jerking 2 spent cartridges out of his gun. He jumped from the cart, and having told the groom to take the mare home, he made his way towards his guests through the withered bracken and rough undergrowth. "Have you had good sport, Geoffrey?" he asked. "Not very good, Dorian. I think most of the birds have gone to the open. I dare say it'd be better after lunch, when we all get to new ground." Dorian strolled along by his side. The keen aromatic air, the brown and red lights that glimmered in the woods, the hoarse cries of beaters ringing out from time to time, and the sharp snaps of the guns that followed, fascinated him and filled him with a sense of delightful freedom. He was dominated by the carelessness of happiness, by the high indifference of joy. Suddenly, from a lumpy tussock of old grass, some 20 yards in front of them, with black-tipped ears erect, long-hindered limbs throwing it forward, started a hare. It bolted for a thicket of alders. Sir Geoffrey put his gun to his shoulder, but there was something in the animal's grace of movement that strangely charmed Dorian Gray, and he cried out at once, "Don't shoot it, Geoffrey. Let it live." "What nonsense, Dorian!" cried his companion, and as the hare bounded into the thicket, he fired. There are two cries heard: the cry of the hare in pain, which is dreadful; the cry of man in agony, which is worse. "Good heavens! I've hit a beater!" exclaimed Sir Geoffrey. What an ass the man was to get in front of the guns! "Stop shooting there!" he called out to the top of his voice. "A man is hurt." The head keeper came running up with a stick in his hand. "Where, sir? Where is he?" he shouted. At the same time, the firing ceased along the line. "Here," answered Sir Geoffrey, angrily hurrying towards the thicket. "Why on earth did you keep your men back? Spoiled my shooting for the day." Dorian watched them as they plunged into the alder clump, brushing the lithe, swinging branches aside. In a few moments they emerged, dragging a body after them. And to the sunlight. He turned away in horror. It seemed to him that misfortune followed wherever he went. He heard Sir Geoffrey ask if the man was really dead, and the affirmative answer of the keeper. The woods seemed to him to have become suddenly alive with faces. There was a trampling of a myriad of feet and low buzz of voices. A great copper-breasted pheasant came beating through the boughs overhead. After a few moments that were to him, in his perturbed state, like endless hours of pain, he felt a hand laid on his shoulder. He started and turned around. "Dorian," said Lord Henry, "I had better tell them that the shooting is stopped for the day. It would not look well to go on." "I wish it had stopped forever, Harry," he answered bitterly. "The whole thing is hideous and cruel." "Is the man—" He could not finish the sentence. "I'm afraid so," rejoined Lord Henry. "He got the whole charge of shot in his chest. He must have died almost instantaneously. Come, let us go home." They walked side by side in the direction of the avenue for nearly 50 yards without speaking. Then Dorian looked at Lord Henry and said with a heavy sigh, "It is a bad omen, Harry, a very bad omen." "What is?" asked Lord Henry. "Oh, the accident, I suppose. My dear fellow, it can't be helped. It was the man's own fault. Why did he get in front of the guns? Besides, it is nothing to us. It is rather awkward for Geoffrey, of course. It does not do to pepper beaters. It makes people think that the one is a wild shot. And Geoffrey is not. He shoots very straight. But there is no use in talking about the matter." Dorian shook his head. "It is a bad omen, Harry. I feel as if something horrible were going to happen to some of us. To myself, perhaps," he added, pausing a hand over his eyes with a gesture of pain. The elder man laughed. "The only horrid thing in the world is ennui, Dorian. That is the one sin for which there is no forgiveness. But we are not likely to suffer from it, unless these fellows keep chattering about this thing at dinner. I must tell them that the subject is to be taboo. As for omens, there is no such thing as an omen. Destiny does not send us heralds. She is too wise or too cruel for that. Perhaps what on earth could have happened to you, Dorian? You have everything in the world that a man can want. There is no one who would not be delighted to change places with you. There is no one with whom I would not change places, Harry. Don't laugh like that. I'm telling you the truth. The wretched peasant who just died is better off than I am. I have no terror of death. It is coming of death that terrifies me. Its monstrous wings seem to wheel in a leaden air round me. Good heavens! Don't you see a man moving behind the trees there, watching me, waiting for me? Lord Henry looked in the direction which the trembling gloved hand was pointing. Yes, he said, smiling. I see the gardener waiting for you. I suppose he wants to ask you what flowers you wish to have on the table tonight. How absurdly nervous are you, my dear fellow? You must come and see my doctor when we get back to town. Dorian heaved a sigh of relief as he saw the gardener approaching. The man touched his hat, glanced for a moment at Lord Henry in hesitating manner, and then produced a letter which he had handed to his master. Her Grace told me to wait for an answer, he murmured. Dorian put the letter in his pocket. Tell her Grace that I am coming, he said coldly. The man turned around and went rapidly in the direction of the house. How fond women are of doing dangerous things, laughed Lord Henry. It is one of the qualities in them that I admire most. A woman will flirt with anybody in the world as long as other people are looking on. How fond you are of saying dangerous things, Harry. In the present instance, you are quite astray. I like the Duchess very much, but I don't love her. And the Duchess loves you very much, but she likes you less. So you are an excellent match. You are talking scandal, Harry, and there is never any basis for scandal. The basis of every scandal is immoral certainty, said Lord Henry, lighting a cigarette. You would sacrifice anybody, Harry, just for the sake of an epigram. The world goes to the altar of its own accord, was the answer. I wish I could love, cried Dorian Gray, with a deep note of pathos in his voice. But I seem to have lost the passion and forgotten the desire. I am too much concentrated on myself. My own personality has become a burden to me. I want to escape, to go away, to forget. It was silly of me to come down here at all. I think I shall send a wire to Harry to have the yacht got ready. On a yacht, one is safe. Safe from what, Dorian? You are in some trouble. Why not tell me what it is? I know I would help you. I can't tell you, Harry, he answered sadly, and I dare say it is only a fancy of mine. This unfortunate accident has upset me. I have a horrible presentiment of that something of the kind may happen to me. What nonsense! I hope it is, but I can't help feeling it. Ah, here is the Duchess looking for Artemis in a tailor-made gown. You see, we have come back, Duchess. I have heard all about it, Mr. Gray, she answered. Poor Geoffrey is terribly upset. And it seems that you asked him not to shoot the hare. How curious. Yes, it was very curious. I don't know what made me say it. Some whim, I suppose. It looked the loveliest of little live things. But I am sorry they told you about the man. It is a hideous subject. It is an annoying subject, broke in Lord Henry. It has no physiological value at all. Now, if Geoffrey had done the thing on purpose, how interesting he would be. I should like to know someone who had committed a real murder. How horrid of you, Harry, cried the Duchess. Isn't it, Mr. Gray? Harry, Mr. Gray is ill again. He is going to faint. Dorian drew himself up with an effort and smile. It is nothing, Duchess, he murmured. My nerves are dreadfully out of order. That is all, I'm afraid. I walked too far this morning, and I didn't hear what Harriet said. Was it bad? You tell me, you must tell me some other time. I think I must go and lie down. You will excuse me, won't you?" They had reached the great flight of steps that led from the conservatory on the terrace. As the glass door closed behind Dorian, Lord Henry turned and looked at the Duchess with his slumberous eyes. Are you very much in love with him?" he asked. She did not answer him for some time, but stood gazing at the landscape. "I wish I knew," she said at last. He shook his head. Knowledge would be fatal. It is the uncertainty that charms one. A mist makes things wonderful. One may lose one's way. All ways end at the same point, my dear Gladys. What is that? Disillusion. It was my debut in life, she sighed. It came to you crowned. I am tired of strawberry leaves. They become you. Only in public. You would miss them, said Lord Henry. I would not part with a petal. Monmouth has ears. Old age is dull of hearing. Has he never been jealous? I wish he had been. He glanced about as if in search of something. What are you looking for? She inquired. The button from your foil, he answered. You have dropped it. She laughed. I have still the mask. It makes your eyes lovelier, was his reply. She laughed again. Her teeth showed like white seeds in scarlet fruit. Upstairs in his room, Dorian Gray was lying on a sofa with terror in every tingling fiber of his body. Life had suddenly become too hideous a burden for him to bear. The dreadful death of the unlikely beater, shot in the thicket like a wild animal, had seemed to him to prefigure death for himself also. He had nearly swooned at what Lord Henry had said in a chance mood of cynical jesting. At 5 o'clock he rang his bell for his servant and gave him orders to pack his things for the night express to town, and to have the brougham at the door by 8:30. He was determined not to sleep another night at Selby Royal. It was an ill-omened place. Death walked there in the sunlight. The grass out on the forest had been spotted with blood. Then he wrote a note to Lord Henry telling him that he was going up to town to consult his doctor and asked him to entertain the guests in his absence. As he was putting into the envelope, a knock came to the door, and his valet informed him that the head keeper wished to see him. He frowned and bit his lip. Send him in, he muttered after some moments' hesitation. As soon as the man had entered, Dorian pulled his checkbook out of the drawer and spread it out before him. I suppose you have come about the unfortunate accident of this morning, Thornton, he said, taking up a pen. Yes, sir, answered the gamekeeper. Was the poor fellow married? Had he any people dependent on him? Asked Dorian, looking bored. If so, I should not like them left in want, and will send them any sum of money may think is necessary. We don't know who he is, sir. That is what I took the liberty of coming to tell you. Don't you know who he is? Said Dorian listlessly. What do you mean? Wasn't he one of your men? No, sir. Never saw him before. Seems like a sailor, sir. The pen dropped from Dorian Gray's hand, and he felt as if his heart had suddenly stopped beating. A sailor, he cried out. Did you say a sailor? Yes, sir. He looked as if he had been a sort of sailor, tattooed on both arms and that kind of thing. Was there anything found on him? Said Dorian, leaning forward, looking at the man with startled eyes. Anything that would tell me his name? Some money, sir. Not much. And a six-shooter. There was no name of any kind. A decent-looking man, sir, but rough-like. A sort of sailor, we think. Dorian started to his feet. A terrible hope fluttered past him. He clutched at it madly. "Where is the body?" he exclaimed. "Quick, I must see it at once." "It is in the empty stable at the home farm, sir. The folk don't like to have that sort of thing in the house. They say a corpse brings bad luck." "The home farm. Go there at once and meet me. Tell one of the groomsmen to bring my horse around. No, never mind. I'll go to the stables myself. It will save time." In less than a quarter hour, Dorian Gray was galloping down the long avenue as hard as he could. The trees seemed to sweep past him in spectral procession, and wild shadows to fling themselves across his path. Once the mare swerved at a white-gated post and nearly threw him. He lashed at her across the neck at his crop. She cleft the dusky air like an arrow. The stones flew from her hoofs. At last he reached the home farm. 2 men were loitering in the yard. He leapt from the saddle and drew the reins to one of them. In the farthest stable a light was glimmering. Something seemed to tell him that the body was there. And he hurried to the door and put his hand on the latch. There was a pause for a moment, feeling that he was on the brink of discovery that would either make or mar his life. Then he thrust the door open and entered. On the heap of stacking in the far right corner was laying the dead body of the man dressed in coarse shirt and a pair of blue trousers. A spotted handkerchief had been placed over his face. A coarse candle stuck in a bottle sputtered beside it. Dorian shuddered. He felt that his could not be the hand to take the handkerchief away, and he called out to one of the farm servants to come to him. "Take that thing off his face. I wish to see it," he said, clutching the doorpost for a moment. When the farm servant had done so, he stepped forward. A cry of joy broke from his lips. The man who had been shot in the thicket was James Vane. He stood there for some minutes looking at the dead body. As he rode home, his eyes were filled of tears, for he knew he was safe. And that were chapters 17 and 18 of the Oscar Wilde classic, The Picture of Dorian Gray. We're coming to the end. Next week will be the denouement, the end of the story, and perhaps the end of Dorian Gray. We shall see. You guys, don't forget, if you get a moment, please like and subscribe. I appreciate it. I like and love having everybody stop in, watching the show on a regular basis, and coming back week after week for all the books that we read, all the chapters we read. By the way, don't forget, next week on Accessibly Live, the book club reading room, the final chapters of The Picture of Dorian Gray. Chapters 19 and 20. I hope you guys have been enjoying this story. I am reading this for the first time with you, and I am being sucked in to the story. And I hope you are too. I hope you are wondering where this all will end. Will Lord Henry find out the truth? Will one of the surprises still await us all? Before we go and before we close out the show, we are going to do like we do for the Thursday night show that we do here on Twitch. We don't put it out on YouTube because we do talk, everybody does talk show on YouTube. But this show only, the Book Club Reading Room, is seen both on Twitch and on YouTube. So if you miss it, or if you're missing some of the chapters, head on over to YouTube. Look this up. Look up Joel K _OG. And pick up some of the other chapters. I think you'll like it. But as we do on Thursday nights, we offer a final quote for the night. And we normally do a final quote from a famous author. And this time, the man who gave us the legendary story, James and the Giant Peach, and many others, Roald Dahl. Those who do not believe in magic will never find it. I like this. I like this quote. Those who do not believe in magic will never find it. And I agree. Sometimes we need to look outside the box. And by the box, I mean the little zone that we keep our eyes in. And sometimes we need to look and be amazed again at a sunrise, at a meteor shower. We've got a meteor shower going on. If you get outside and it's a clear night, usually after 10 p.m. towards the sun, where the sunset, check it out. Sometimes a little bit of magic, a little bit of fancy, a little bit of fun is not a bad thing. It's time to go. I appreciate everyone who stops in on a regular basis. I am Joel K. This is Accessibly Live, the Book Club Reading Room, every single Sunday night here on YouTube and Twitch. And next week back with the final 2 chapters of the legendary classic of Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray. Take care, you guys. Have a great night, and we will see you all this coming Thursday on the Twitch, Accessibly Live, and then next week for the finale. Take care, all. Talk to you soon.